All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. I am Brian Altunian, and with my co-host and partner, Shawn Francis, we are Just Two Dads. Welcome to another episode. You know, as parents of children with special needs, some of the things that we have that are concerning are things like, will they live on their own? Will our child be able to drive? Will they be able to hold down a job? Will they be able to live on their, live on their own direction? And it's one of those things that we're constantly thinking about. And today, our special guest is going to be talking about that. She's an autism advocate and really focuses on folks, our adults on the autism spectrum, and being able to take care of those jobs, but also to educate our employers about what it means to employ somebody again on the autism spectrum. So it's going to be a fascinating conversation here on Just Two Dads. Hello again, everybody. Welcome back. Again, I'm Brian Altunian along with Shawn Francis, and there's another episode. Shawn, I think we're up episode 81 or 82 on
82.
82. We started this conversation a year and a half ago, formally, but informally, we've been in this conversation for about 4 or 5 years. And so we want to thank everybody who's catching us live on Facebook. Hello, please put your comments in the chat. Let us know if there's something that you want to clarify, or if you've got questions for our guests. We appreciate you. If you're catching us after the fact, either on Facebook or at our YouTube channel at We Are Just Two Dads, please subscribe, share with your friends, comment. Let us know if there's other things you'd like us to talk about. We're also available on podcast outlets everywhere, WSTX AM radio down in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and on a Roku channel coming to you soon. So I'd like to welcome all of you. You're part of our family. You're part of this conversation. So please engage with us. We love the back and forth. And I think today is going to be a fascinating subject. So before we get to our guest, who's really amazing, and of course for me, she's a fellow Bruin from UCLA. So I have a particular affinity to this relationship. But before we get to her, I want to welcome my partner in this, and my really family. Is my family co-host, Mr. Shawn Francis. How are you today, buddy?
I'm doing great, thankful, blessed, and a little frazzled, but because it's a very good kind of frazzle, very busy and productive day, and less about me and more about our amazing guest, Maisie Soetantyo. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me today as your interesting subject. So I would like to fill that space.
Sure, most definitely.
Yes.
We generally begin with, most of us that are caring for those in the special needs community, anybody that's making a difference in anybody's life in some way, shape, or form, is a hero. Most of the people that are doing that don't see themselves that way, but that's how we view it. And all heroes have a story and have an origin from where their powers come. So, I know that we're going to eventually get to the Autism Career Pathways, which is the organization that you've founded and everything. I'm especially enthused today because my son is 15 and on the autism spectrum. And spectrum means that everybody's situation is just a little different. Mm-hmm. But let's get to the beginning, because how you were raised, who raised us, and the values and everything that are given to us will often dictate how we deal with a child or loved one's diagnosis, or in your case, your very own. So if you could do that, we could start there. That would be great.
Yeah. I think that personally, I was very blessed and privileged to be raised by parents who intuitively were able to guide me, which was very atypical of Asian parents who, usually parents in Asia tend to focus on academic performance and lots of extracurricular activities. And my parents were the opposite. I do have a non-speaking aunt, my mom's youngest sister, who has Down syndrome. And in my family, they were multi-generational of autistic people. I'm the only one formally diagnosed because it's really difficult to get a diagnosis for as an autistic adult, right? And so I think because of that, because of just in my family, I think loving someone who is different is just part of our identity. So I grew up watching my mom and her siblings taking care of their youngest sibling, and watching my mom handling a ton of meltdowns, because in my own immediate family, I was the easy one. Can you believe that? I was the easy one.
Yeah.
And the sensory meltdowns were real. It would go from 0 to 100 like that. And my poor mom, just bless her heart, she dealt with it. She was a very calm person. She set expectations for me. She wanted to make sure that I experienced the world and continue to learn, but she was able to make adjustments. So that kind of imprint and template, if you want to call it that, that's something that I hold very dearly when I work with my autistic clients, and also as a mom, because we're raising human beings. And I think every family should have that built-in flexibility, and it's not easy, but I was lucky that I experienced that.
And you were diagnosed as an adult, right?
Yeah.
So were there signs? Did you struggle in school leading up to your diagnosis?
I definitely struggled in school. So I have sensory processing disorder, which is very common if you're autistic, right? It just means that my sensory processing is calibrated differently compared to neurotypical people's. Everyone has a sensory profile, but if you're autistic, it's definitely over 90% different when it comes to processing, the sensory input. You are visual, vestibular, proprioceptive, tactile. All of this is kind of like all over the place. And I also have auditory processing disorder. So I can't really, when I was in school, it was very hard because my teachers would of course, lecture. And I just I can't process information and learn that way. And especially you're expected to multi-process. You have to listen, take notes, maybe doing math problems and, answer questions. There's a lot. Information processing is a very, very complex, it requires all of your bandwidth, all of your senses. And I was not a very good student, not because of lack of effort, because I had a learning disability. I also have number dyslexia, which is called dyscalculia. And I basically failed all of my math.
I've never even heard of that, just when it comes to the visual appearance of numbers then.
Anything that has to do with numbers, number concepts, it's like I often see numbers backwards. Mix up time zones, and I always miscalculated how long I need to get ready or arrive at a place and so on. So now I know that there's actually the specific disorder for that.
Yeah. Right.
But the funny thing is that because I suck at math, I ended up taking psychology, because it's not in psychology, you only have to take statistics. And in statistics, it's the only type of math that uses context. And it was more interesting, and I survived it. And that's why I became a psychologist. So without my math disability, I would be doing something different, maybe,
Interesting.
So
that's funny.
So it's, Yeah. So other signs, I think I have always had the same stims ever since I was a little girl. So I just needed to move, right? Some people say that autism is a movement disorder because
Mhm.
movement is what helps us to self-regulate. And
Regulate.
yeah.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I to have to sit here, I had to do what I needed to do stimming wise, move using movement beforehand. And after I'm done, I also need time to go back to it to reset, and this is it is just part of my neurology as an autistic person. So I think looking back, the signs were there. Like I would actually break out in hives, for example, when I experienced sensory overload. And when I was little, I was always put on antihistamine because I was always like red and itchy because it was just my body's trying to tell me, okay, you need to stop. You need to stop because you can't process this much information.
A physical reaction to
Yeah,
it.
it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
physical reaction. And also the other sign was like I would just like faint, like black out,
Wow.
So especially when it was outdoor and in the presence of a lot of people. So I went to a Catholic school and we had Friday Mass, and it involves a lot of people in a small
Right.
place, standing up, kneeling, and sitting down. And then I would just fall back because I just can't handle it. And yeah, so I was actually growing up, I was excluded a lot because, also because I was a girl. And when people think that you're very frail and you can't do certain things, it was okay because you were a girl.
Yeah.
So being autistic and gendered in Asia, it's still happening today, of course. Yeah, so in 2019, when I started the nonprofit Autism Career Pathways, I actually took a year break to learn about anything related to autism employability, right?
Mhm.
Educate myself. What am I getting myself into in 2019? And that year, I spoke to so many other autistic adults who are already out advocating. And a lot of these conversations we did over Zoom because that was the beginning of the pandemic. And
Right.
it's interesting because a lot of times after I talk to someone, they would say, "Oh, it's so nice to talk to another autistic person." And I was like, because they actually, autistic people just kind of know how to find each other.
Each other. Yeah.
And yeah, so that's how I decided finally to look for a clinician who could diagnose someone like me. And I finally found that person and got formally diagnosed. And then when I broke the news to my husband, he was like, "Oh, I knew you were autistic. Like after a year we were dating." I'm like, "What? Anything to me?"
So how long ago was that then that
Just
you
in
got your
2019?
diagnosis?
Yeah, 2019. So you're
Wow.
asking me something that has to do with like
date.
when something happened, which
Yeah.
I normally deflect that kind of question. Like when was this happening? Because it's just
Yeah.
a big black hole to me.
Right, right.
But it was
Well, you
recent.
mentioned.
But I was
Go
just
ahead,
saying,
Brian.
how long have you been married?
Oh man, really?
I'm
That's
sorry. I'm
another.
asking you another
She
question.
just told you, Brian. How cruel.
There's a really stupid way for me to figure this out. So my daughter just turned 17. So that means we've been married probably 19 years.
Wow.
19 or 20 years.
And he said that he knew from like within a year of
He
dating,
knew. Oh yeah, he knew.
but
Because
didn't have a formal diagnosis.
when you're in a relationship, you have to unmask at some point, right? You
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
of course. Because
everybody wears one.
well, everybody stims. Stephen Curry choose that darn mouth guard Like
Yeah.
right now, when I do a presentation, I always talk about Steph Curry because he's not aware that he's doing it, but he's stimming to self-regulate, and everyone does it. But unfortunately, if you have a child who is developmentally delayed and then getting a diagnosis, that becomes a bad thing. Your need to have sensory breaks and sensory regulation methods and strategies, that becomes like something bad, where we should normalize our needs to have sensory breaks.
Right. Let me ask you this. So you mentioned growing up, you mentioned I think you mentioned your parents coming from, obviously an Asian culture. And then I think you mentioned that they may have immigrated as well. So where are they from originally?
I was born and raised in Indonesia.
Okay. So you were born and raised in Indonesia. Okay. All right. So then let me ask you this. That's really fascinating. I knew that that your parents were from an Asian country. I didn't realize that you were born and raised in Indonesia.
Right.
So you touched on it a little, culturally in the Asian community, as you mentioned, academics is like everything. I can relate to that coming from the Caribbean, where people at least do their 4 years and get their 4-year degree from a college or university, if not going on to a master's program. And feeling like, well, if you don't do that, something's odd. I mean, that was at least, my case. So in your case, coming from a culture and environment like that, you've explained why your parents were the antithesis of the typical approach, and they were loving and everything. In that environment, did you have a thought that you're going to go and seek higher education, or how did that even come about?
Well, it was always expected. I think that you have to, have higher education. And that was very important to my parents. So I just kind of followed that trajectory,
And so they helped you prepare in terms of the way they supported you.
Well, yeah, but I think my mom especially, she really invested in trying to figure things out with me. Right. And the way she did that was to help me catch up after school. When you have a child with learning challenges, you practically go to school with your kid, because after school is still school, doing homework.
Yeah,
sure. And really cruddy, because no kid wants mommy to be another teacher or therapist.
Right.
But guess what? That's what's happening when you have a child who is regarded as like behind developmentally or academically, right? But my mom invested. I felt like she really tried to figure it out. When she couldn't figure it out on her own, she would hire tutors. And the sad thing is that when you have a learning disability, you can have the best teacher. I remember my math teacher was so funny. He was great. He always made like everybody laugh while teaching math, and everybody got it. And I was still, well, first of all, I don't understand why people were laughing to begin with. I don't understand when people are laughing at me or with me. Like, it's just part of my like being autistic, I suppose.
Right. Processing.
I still didn't get it. And you can't really hide your when you did not perform well, report cards. You can't hide that from your parents. You can hide it from your friends, right?
Sure.
You can't, so my parents just they celebrated my effort. They knew that I had such high anxiety when it comes to school expectations. So I would just get up at 3 a.m, 4 a.m, just automatically when there's an exam, and to study extra. And then I would still like just pretty much, fail all of it. And well, if I got like a C-, they would take me out to get ice cream, for example, to celebrate. So that my parents were like that. They celebrated my effort instead of, what's on paper, which again, it's very atypical, I suppose.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're going through high school, you're making your way, to college. Tell us a little bit about like what college was like, and then the work that you did coming out of college, because there's a gap between that and then starting your organization.
Yeah. Well, I somehow managed to get into UCLA, but I went to two-year college first in Pomona, and that helped because it was smaller.
Sure.
And my teachers were really accessible to me. And then when I was at UCLA, it was really, really hard.
I was going to say, how did you deal with that socially in terms of a
at
big
UCLA,
environment?
I don't know if Brian took advantage of they sell the notes for every class. There was a note teacher, and they sell the notes.
Yeah.
So I just purchased every single note for every class, because even though I went to every single class, if you ask me, what did you learn or blah, 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 and I would just say, I don't know. I was just physically there, but I didn't actually comprehend anything. Right. And I had other fellow classmates who took a pity on me. So we would do like small group study, and they were really patient, and that really helped me,
Nice.
and so I graduated, and then when I tried to continue to get into my master's degree, I failed the first time. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. So then I worked as a behavioral therapist and really enjoyed working with autistic kids. And then years later, when I was 40, I think I already have my daughter. Then I went back to get my master's degree in curriculum and instructional design, and it was all online, and it was still hard, but it was really absolutely the right format for me. It was still hard, but I did it. So now I tell my clients, I just tell autistic adults, look, you can learn to drive at any age. You can start a business and start it again if you want.
I love that.
Get a degree, learn to drive at the age of 40. Like, progress doesn't have an expiration date.
Love that.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have to realize that your timing is yours.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Unfortunately, society likes to compare us to other people's timelines or other people's expectations
Absolutely.
of the timeline. And that's the biggest challenge a lot of us have, is like, how do we fit in society's expectation of the timeline?
Yeah.
But I love that development.
When you started working, you're working as a behavioral therapist, did anybody have any, wonder as to whether or not there was a diagnosis? Were there any challenges that you had with your processing and everything doing that job, or did you feel at home because of it?
I felt at home because of it, and I think because working with autistic kids, I really understand it just intuitively, because those kids are my neurokin. We're just connected. I was very good at it. I still am very good at it. I could meet someone autistic who we don't know each other, but I could just very easily connect with them and hang out with them and do stuff with them. There's this unspoken understanding that we're actually the same. We share the same soul. Like, we're very similar,
Right.
And I've always had that. That was really my strength, and my special interest has always been autism, human behavior, and sports watching, of course, which is today I'm wearing my Warrior shirt because we probably I have to endure another round of getting beat up by Phoenix Sun.
Yeah. But
The playoffs,
you got
different.
you got some hope when Draymond Green comes back, even though it is a back injury.
He's already back, but he's very cranky, and he's giving bad jujus to the rest of the players. So
That's the players. Let me
I love that
ask
you're
you this.
a Warriors fan. I love that.
You're doing
Why?
something that is where most people are comfortable. I've got my purpose and I love what I do.
Yeah.
What then has you go, you know what? I love what I do. And I don't know what kind of income you were making compared to your needs, but it sounds like you had enough reason to feel comfortable. What caused you to then say, I'm going to create my own destiny and I'm going to go start a business, do the same thing, but do it under my own banner? That takes something. And that's the part you can't see it under my shirt. I'm getting goosebumps saying that, because for you to be like, okay, I'm here right now, but I'm going to step further outside of my comfort zone and add a higher level of value. How did you get there?
That's a very good question. I 100% believe that if I am not autistic, I would be doing some boring old job, 9 to 5 somewhere. I would probably go back to my country and, I don't know, marry someone my parents wanted me to marry.
Wait a minute. You're going to see when you look back at this, right? At the playback, when it's on YouTube and everything, make sure you take a look at it. We're at the 26, maybe 15 mark.
Yeah.
You began answering the question by, that's a good question. And you raised up and you said, if I wasn't autistic, I would. And then you went like this, go back to my country and probably, and your energy completely shifted. And for those that are watching this, and even those that are listening, I want them to catch that. Purpose has energy. I know that days when I don't feel well or something like that, I'm kind of dragging. And then when you do something that's connected to what you love doing, it might be exchanging energy with a loved one. It might be the work that you do. If that's purpose driven, you're like, my headache hasn't gone away, but it sure does not feel the same. It's just like, it's one thing to be tired and sore from not feeling well, but to be tired and sore from working out, exercising your spirit or your body is a completely different feeling. That is so valuable.
Yeah. I think because I'm autistic, I have a very curious nature, and I always believe that there has to be something better. And I want that answer. I really want change. I believe in change. And that's why I fought to stay in America, because I love my freedom. I love being able to just dump and ditch anytime I want, which is true, because I left behavioral therapy after doing it for 12 years, because I felt like there's just something that was intuitively, it didn't suit me as an autistic person, and I couldn't put my finger on it exactly what it was. And then I got trained in a relationship-based model, and I've been doing it ever since. And then in 2019, I just dump and ditch again and start this nonprofit. So now I'm just like, I'm the ultimate project queen, if you want to call it that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's
I love
fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah.
So will you tell us a little bit about Autism Career Pathways? Tell us what you do with your clients and what folks.
Yeah, I want to help people realize that all of us, neurodivergent people, whether you're autistic, whether you have Down syndrome, or whether you have CP, or all of us neurodivergent people, we have the right to live the best lives that we can.
Yep.
And we need support to get there. But I want our community to help all of us redefine that meaningful work, meaningful employment, quality of life, because everybody's entitled to that. So at Autism Career Pathways, I'm very passionate to figure out in a creative ways how we as a community can support, for example, non-speaking people to be able to work as best as they can if that's what they choose to do. I want to challenge people's perspectives on, well, if you can't be independent, then you don't deserve to have great quality of lives. Well, guess what? Not everybody can, even though all their lives they can work towards independence, it's not going to happen for them because they have such complex co-occurring conditions. Their best is knowing that I have a voice to ask for help, and these are my circle of people who can help me achieve that. That's called interdependence, and so just really I love hosting really fun events to be able to tell stories of neurodivergent people to our community at large, outside of the autism and autistic circles, because the world is a big place. So we do host online events for autistic makers. Last year with Caitlin Stamos, John Stamos, so we did that online. And last year we ran the very first all autistic led career mentoring course led by over 25 autistic people, including non-speaking business owners.
Wow.
Which was incredible. I didn't realize it would actually take 6 months of my life. I miscalculated. But it was great.
That it would take 6 months to do, or it actually snatch 6 months of your life from you.
And I didn't realize that because my husband actually told me once I kicked it off. My husband was like, you realize this is if you run the class every other week and you plan for 10 classes, that would actually take 5 months plus preparing for it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. But I'm just gonna do it anyways. So okay, so I think I digress.
That's okay.
I guess I meant to say that the world needs autistic minds because we are the barrier breakers for we don't do projects because it's easy. We do it because it's right. And that's what I want to accomplish through the nonprofit, because if we just focus on businesses and companies and families who are touched by autism, then that rate of hiring, over 85% of autistic college graduates are underemployed or unemployed. That rate is it's actually higher because after a while, autistic people stop looking for a job because it makes, it feels bad to just keep getting rejected, right? Yeah. So I think the only way we can change this is really reach people outside of our immediate autism circles, for everyone to understand more about inclusivity and ways that they can step up and get involved. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I think that in the last year, we've seen some very public declarations or public acknowledgments of neurodivergent folks. And I go back to Elon Musk when he hosted Saturday Night Live, and he admitted that he had Asperger's, and what that did just to kind of create some awareness for folks that what Asperger's is and how that plays in. And then just this week, I know this will date this show a little bit, but this week in the the Academy Awards, for Coda to win the Best Picture, right? Children of Deaf Adults. That was an amazing opportunity and the fact that our Best Supporting Actor winner was also the second deaf actor to win an Academy Award, next to his co-star in that movie, Marlee Matlin, who also being the first. But not only that, but also Liza Minnelli coming out with Lady Gaga to announce the Best Picture winner in her older years and in needing a wheelchair. It shows us that if we're not members of the special needs community now, eventually we all will become members. And the idea that Lady Gaga said to her, if you watch some of the playback and you could hear her speak in a microphone, "I got you," and Liza said, "I know, thank you." That just speaks so loudly into exactly what you're saying, Maisie. That's we just need somebody to say, "Hey, I got you," right? "I got you," and that's that's so powerful. But those public declarations are kind of creating an awareness, an opportunity for people to see. What we try to do on our podcast is expose those folks that are helping the folks within the special needs community and doing the work like you are doing to, again, create some awareness and show that there are people, there are warriors out there leading the charge. So, it's good. We need more of that. We need more of that for people to understand.
Yeah. It's interesting you brought up Elon Musk, because I was recently asked in an interview about whether or not it's helpful if celebrities actually come out and admit that they are autistic. And I was feeling very salty that evening, and I said, "You know what?"
Tell her what you said, because I'm like, who would ask that question?
I said, "Well, I think people should stop trying to put people in boxes and criticizing is oh, that term is no longer, he shouldn't say this or that, and no, I think instead of waiting for others to come out, I think everyone should be accountable for just how they can contribute more. Autism awareness is nothing. Autistic people need support 24/7, 365 days in a year. There's so much work that needs to be done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not happening. Just celebrating autism awareness by wearing the
blue
special t-shirt or blue, it's not enough. Autism awareness, autism acceptance. So now you see that it's actually saying autism acceptance, but to me, you have to quickly go beyond that. Autism support or autism belonging, or just educate yourself the right way. And I don't know if I told you about a new project that we launched, the Better Community Sensory Inclusive Small Business Certification. So I launched that last month. So that's designed for businesses and organizations like libraries to get sensory inclusive certified so we can educate them. It's another one of hard project that I decided to create and do.
Yeah.
And I am still being ghosted a lot. I have to physically show up. And so this is my card. This is our project. It will be great if you get certified. And they go, oh, this is so great. And
so tell us this. So in their certification, does that teach them how to deal with customers that may have sensory or developmental issues?
Yes.
How to deal with hiring people that fit that mode, or both?
It's just helping our community spaces to become more neurodivergent friendly, not just autism specific friendly.
Right.
So it was put together by a team of neurodivergent people, like parents, non-speaking adults, somebody who has mobility restrictions, parents, this team, it took us 5 months to put together a list of resources because we want something meaningful. So we put together like short videos. We put together a 1-page thingy to read about autism, sensory processing differences, and communication differences, just
So-
3 areas. And businesses get a downloadable sensory scanning checklist and accommodation event ideas. So that's the process. So if a small business or a library want to get certified, they go through these resources. It takes up to an hour. Look at it, complete it, ask questions, and then when they're done, they download the best practices downloadable, the checklist. They walk around their business space to like rethink the lighting. Is there anything they can do about it? Probably not, but the background noise, the kind of music they play, because now we've told them the reasons why. The why is
Right.
we can't just tell people to change without telling the why.
Right.
And then they have to show us what they've done through in their business to change. Yeah.
So let's say I'm a business owner, and to me, it makes sense to do that. I have the empathy to do that. I'm like, okay, great. So we go through the program and everything. What, if anything, does the business owner have to pay in order to do that? Is there a cost? How does that work?
Yeah. So for now, we are not yet charging. We will in the future. Right now, it's still in the pilot process where we're asking businesses to give us feedback. And so far, everyone has given us great feedback because it was being curated by a team of like great self advocates. And that's the process because we want to see if they're serious about it and what changes. And we do live Instagram. If they're local, I actually do a walkthrough, answer their questions, and we make it really engaging. And then once they're certified, they get a window sticker, Better Community window sticker, a digital certificate, and we announce them on our Instagram, a Better Community Certified Instagram account. And they also have a logo that they can put on their website that we are Better Community Certified. So it's actually designed for the small mom and pop shop, community.
Right.
And it's just education about true inclusivity and what you can do as a business owner to think about it.
Yeah.
What is the website for that?
So we are on Instagram. It's Better Community Certified.
Okay, Better Community Certified. And then let me ask you this: when it's presented to, it's funny because I'm sitting here, I've been listening to everything you said because obviously I've asked some questions, but I haven't let go in the back of my head the idea of somebody ghosting you. So I'm just kind of like, thinking too, when you reach out to them, is it presented to them in a manner that lets them know that it's beneficial to them in terms of the way they're perceived by the public and how it might even be beneficial to their bottom line?
Yes. So we actually have a video that was created by an autistic parent with multiple autistic children. And she said that with accommodations, autistic adults would be able to go and be able to shop at these certified places. So for now, actually, we prefer to just meet offline instead of going to a cafe, for example, because it's really loud, or just do online shopping instead of actually shopping at a community store. So we do create that. We do explain that inclusivity should just be standard. It should be,
Sure.
Yeah, and we want to show that it doesn't take much. We're not asking you to buy or like spend a lot of money, but it's just more of a mindset change, right? So within our downloadable, we actually create a very simple bulleted point information. How do you support someone non-speaking, for for example. How do you support someone who's going through a meltdown at your store? Right? It's very simple.
Yeah.
And I think even if they don't get certified, just look at what we put together and learn.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Awareness.
That's it. That's all we want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Our very first guest that we had on this on our podcast was trying to establish a nonprofit organization that would go in because she found restaurants.
Yeah.
And if her child with autism had a meltdown or something, how they were asked to leave because they don't other patrons to be bothered. And so she set out to do something similar, to go and educate businesses. And actually, if you think about it, if there's a period of time during the day that a business has low traffic, but they focus that time on, sensory awareness, that they can actually generate a whole new revenue stream or a whole new business around servicing this community, because then parents will look for where's its sensory safe space to be. So that helps their
so we give businesses a ton of ideas. Like one of the ideas is for a business to just create a short video and of their physical space, their parking, their restroom, and just put it on their website, because that's helpful for parents of autistic kids to show their kid, okay, this is a new restaurant we're going to, this is how it's going to look like, and so on. Because that's really important to know what's ahead of you so you can prepare yourself,
Right.
So it's something very, very simple, So, and of course, events, like if it's a library, you could host like a monthly book club, like autistic-led book club, or story reading, sensory friendly.
Sure.
I'm assuming the answer is probably no, because I haven't heard of it, but we have legislation that is in place where, accessibility and ramps and things like that need to be put in place for those that are physically disabled or challenged. There is no legislation that I know of for the things that you're talking about, though, is there?
No. I don't
Interesting.
think so.
Not even, and some of the bigger challenges is where you have a large group of sporting events. If you could imagine going to Golden State Warriors games or concerts, or something where a large crowd, and then providing noise canceling headsets and some other process that can accommodate. Again, there's just no so there's no.
Memphis Grizzlies is very good at it.
Are they?
Well, they are.
Grizzlies hire they actually hire an autistic person as their, ball operations manager. So she does all of the video editing, and that's what she does, and she loves it. I interviewed her. So kudos to Memphis Grizzlies.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Just for a second to go back to the Elon Musk conversation. The reason why it was striking to me is that his what he said was, I have Asperger's, and then immediately said, my brain just thinks differently. I just think differently, right? My brain processes differently. And that's, I think, the aha moment, not to just put a label on something, because nobody wants to be labeled, but just getting people to
normalize
understand
it.
I just think I process the world differently. This situation occurs to me, how this event occurs to me, or how I take in this information, how I process it. It's different to me. I think that's the gift.
Well, if Elon is not autistic, there wouldn't be Tesla.
Correct. Or a number of other things.
Or other, yes.
Number of other things.
It's
Agreed. Shawn, we're getting to that point. We're almost, can you believe? Amazing.
Yes.
See, no concept of time with us either when it comes to this podcast. We don't time is no contextual based background.
Yeah.
So Shawn, go ahead.
At this point in the show, Maisie, we asked the following, our ability to change the world, make it a better place, is going to be tied to and determined by our willingness or ability to change ourselves. So give us an example of one thing, a thought or belief that you believed, very strongly, that you now no longer believe to be true?
I used to think that you can fix people. Like when I was working with autistic kids, well, okay, people don't know what they don't know. And I think it's now I say the opposite. I mean, instead of having that fix it mindset, I think you have to go the opposite, is you have to focus on the growth mindset, and you need to be accountable to have that kind of mindset for yourself first, because as adults, we're always in that position where we are given an opportunity to guide someone, whoever that may be, and that is, it's up to you to really put it on yourself to invest in time and invest in getting to know the person sitting in front of you, whether you're a parent or a teacher or a colleague at work or a therapist. You got to start with you. You have to be the game changer first, and I mean, especially when it's about working with a child, you want this child to remember you fondly someday. Like I remember my math teacher. I still suck at whatever he was teaching, but I remember him fondly. And that should be everybody's legacy, that you can be a game changer in someone's life. Instead of focusing on, oh, you should do this. That's the easy part. Telling people what to do, that's the easy part. But gotta focus on the process.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Eye-opening. I'm so glad that there are warriors out there like you making a difference, because just being advocates for our children and for our family members, and for those that have so much to contribute, and giving them an opportunity to see that for themselves, and for those employers as well. So first of all, I want to say thank you, Maisie, for being a part of this, and hopefully
of course,
we'll find other people who will reach out to you, find your organization, and want to become involved. Better Community Certified as an Instagram handle, absolutely amazing. And Autism Career Pathways is your organization. I hope people will do some research and find out what Maisie is all about. And
and are your clients in different parts of the country, Maisie? Sorry, Brian.
Yeah. So I do mostly online courses.
Okay. So it doesn't matter where they are.
Yeah. I actually love doing the hands-on training, where I'm actually, modeling for adult guides in different settings to help them really understand how to guide someone. I teach people not to be instructor, because that's the easy part to tell people what to do,
Sure.
But, yeah. So I love working with just people from different kinds of backgrounds, and but donate to Autism Career Pathways. We need donations so we can hire more neurodivergent mentors. We all need mentors.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. It's a great ask. So folks, if you're so inclined, or if you know somebody who makes regular donations, contributions to great organizations, autismcareerpathways.org is the autismcareerpathways.org is a place to go. So go and help them out. Yeah, that would be great.
Yes.
And as we go to sign off on the show, I will end by saying, again, I'm grateful to have you out there, and an advocate and a warrior. And I think what you've described, what you've talked about today, I usually sign off on our episodes by talking about empathy and love. And I think what you're doing is, again, creating an opportunity for people to be empathetic, to this, to what's happening with the folks around them in their community, because you never know. You don't know how they process. You don't know. We make up our minds to be so judgmental about people without having a real understanding of what they're going through, where they've been, how they're processing the world. So always good time to be empathetic. And then if you look at the world through the lenses of love, the world will just be a better place. And so as we say, as we start to sign off, thank you everybody for participating and for commenting and for listening and watching the show. And again, hopefully you'll reach out and do something to support Autism Career Pathways. Maisie, it's great to have you here. And I'm going to throw it to Shawn to close us out, but thank you again for being on our podcast today. It's amazing.
Thank you for having me.
It was our pleasure. Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to tune in. I want to thank the women in my life, as I always do, my mom, Jan, and my amazing wife, Laura, without whom I literally would not be. You guys don't have any idea. And at the same time, now more than ever, just know that, we have more in common than we do otherwise. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to be loved and wants to know that they matter. At this particular time, find a way to ask more questions and make less statements. Questions have a lot more power than statements. Judge less and give more grace. And looking forward to the shows that we have coming up for April, which is Autism Awareness Month. And we're not into April yet, but for today's show to sort of kick that off, that is exceptionally great. And we are so grateful. So if you're watching this, thank you so much. And we love you.
We love you. Thank you, everybody.